am I right in saying that you have a young horse who is a little bit of a potential superstar called Cooley HHS Calmaria, and that Equilume has made a real difference in terms of finding the key to unlock some of her talents?
Yeah, she's an interesting mare. I always say she's probably one of the trickiest horses I've ever had and the most talented. She's quite quirky and she's quite hot, and she's got a lot of opinions. And it was interesting when I first met Michael at Equilume, we just put one of the masks on her, and we put the mask on her and she immediately put her head to the floor, which was the weirdest thing. So we started using that regularly on her and at the shows and everything, and she's definitely turned a corner, almost instantly settled more as a horse and become more trainable.
Welcome, listeners, to an Equilume special on the Eventing podcast, because we have with us the rider that has the most international wins of any rider in the world in the last 5 years, Liz Halliday. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. And listeners, I'm going to set the scene for you because Liz, is dedicated to the cause. Liz, you have been on an overnight flight from the US to Ireland. You've probably had next to no sleep, and it is currently quite early in the morning in Ireland. So thank you.
No worries. Yeah, I'm not really sure what day it is or where I am, but here we are. I'm definitely on the podcast.
That's all we need. First of all, how has your sort of off-season been? So I think we last spoke possibly on the USCA podcast kind of September time, and it feels like a lot has happened since then. So how's your off-season been?
It's been fine. It never really feels like an off-season, I guess, because we moved down south to our base in Florida, and sort of the young horses are still in work and various things. But we had a good time down there. It's always so useful to be able to go to the World Equestrian Center and the Hitch Showground and just do a good bit of jumping and dressage through the winter, which is usually what I focus on. And we've done a couple little one-day events with the younger horses. And my older horses, the more experienced ones, kicked off their season with the eventing showcase a few weeks ago.
I was going to ask how your winter program differs to that, because obviously you head down to Florida, there's a bit of sunshine there as well. What does look different about it? And did this year look any different to previous years, or do you pretty much stick to a system now?
I pretty much stick to the system. I tend to start at the first event of the season. For my experienced horses, I usually use the eventing showcase in Aiken. I suppose after so many years in Britain, I just don't want to start those horses eventing until March. They just don't need to. I feel like it just becomes a very, very long season for the upper level horses otherwise. So we mainly just try and really utilize these amazing facilities that we have in Ocala. The World Equestrian Center, it's like being at the Olympics every day with the phenomenal arenas they have. And they also do a lot of USDF dressage. So I've done a good bit of that this year as well. And just kind of getting them prepped up and ready to go.
One thing that you mentioned that, having been in the UK for so many years, one thing we don't get in the UK in the winter is much sunshine. Obviously, it makes people feel much better. But do you think it has an impact on the horses as well, getting a bit more sunshine over winter?
Absolutely. We all need vitamin D. We all have experienced how sort of more tired and lazy we all feel when it's just gray all the time. I've spent plenty of British winters like that. So I think it does make a big difference. And Kentucky winter is not super great. So we're very happy to bring the horses down and get a bit of sun on their back, and just sort of keeps them fresh and happy about their work. And I think it's really important for their longevity.
I guess it ties in as well with everything that Equilume's down for, and about kind of the circadian rhythm and making sure that horses are in kind of peak preparation and then performance for when they need to be at their very, very peak, of which there's going to be a couple of times this year. We'll talk about that in a minute. How does the Equilume system and the light mask kind of fit into your program? How do you use it?
Well, we have a good few of the lights in our Kentucky farm. We're actually hoping to put some into the Florida farm. We had them at our previous place, but we sold that place 2 years ago. And so we're in the process of getting that organized. But we definitely use the masks, especially when we're traveling and the horses are away at competitions, because, of course, we can't put them out in the field for hours on end, and they're stabled a lot. So it's a great way to still help them get that blue light they'd be getting from the sun. I think it definitely makes them more relaxed and happier. And certain horses, we see a huge difference. And then you put the mask on, they really drop their neck and just take a deep breath. So you can sort of visibly see that it helps them as well.
I feel like Equilume should do a human mask for winter. I feel like there'd be quite a market for that in the UK in particular. There'd be plenty of us going, God, give me some light. I have to ask before we come on to this season. Last season was a pretty late finish because the Pan American Games felt like they were quite late on in the year. Just take us back, because it was your first senior championships. Team Silver, not quite the sort of fairy tale finish that everybody would have been hoping for you. But what was it like coming out of that? And what are your thoughts on it now, reflecting, 6 months later?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was incredibly honored to represent my country at my first senior championship. And that was fantastic. It was what I really hoped for last year, and I sort of worked for it. I mean, I'll be completely honest, for me, the result was not even close to what both of us are capable of. And I left pretty disappointed, not for lack of trying. I don't believe I rode terribly badly or anything. It just was one of those things. And I think our horses are top athletes, and every top athlete can have kind of an off weekend. And I think it was just not our weekend for any of us, really, I guess, except for Caroline. But listen, we all really worked hard. Our horses were well prepared. I know that I was and am sitting on a phenomenal athlete, and Mickey is an absolutely wonderful horse. So you just have to sort of say, well, I didn't quite go to plan, and spend the time trying to think, at least learn from what you can from those experiences. Take home the good bits and also learn from the parts that didn't quite work out. So I've definitely made a few changes this year, and I was absolutely thrilled with how well he went at Carolina International last weekend. He was just phenomenal in all three phases. And so for me, I'm looking back at it as a educational experience and a wonderful opportunity. I'm obviously still proud to have won a medal, and now we're just looking forward and doing the best we can for what's ahead.
You are a fierce competitor. Has it stoked the fire even more in terms of leaving no stone unturned, that desire, that kind of dedication to represent your country at the highest level?
I mean, absolutely. That's kind of all I'm doing every day, is trying to train my horses better, do better by my horses, help them be the best athletes they can be, so that we can both, perform better as a partnership. That's been my dream, to ride on multiple teams and championships for as long as I can remember. So that's still what I'm fighting for. Absolutely. And I have some really amazing horses, which is super exciting, and a few that are coming up through the ranks. So yeah, I think it's about just always thinking and always being open to ideas, and always thinking, is this working? Isn't it working? Just trying to keep tweaking it so that we can get better and better, one bit at a time.
Let's talk about this season, because as you've alluded to, the season's already kicked off. You've got a great team of upper level horses in particular. Let's start with the showcase, because you had three inside the top 10 there. And they all looked, Cooley Quicksilver, Cooley Nutcracker, and Mixed Master C, the main man, as I might call him. They all looked in phenomenal form. And it felt very much, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it was, yes, about being competitive, but also about a bit of a training exercise for you and kind of making sure they were where you wanted them at this stage of the season. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, 100%. I always go there to be competitive. I think some of them, like Cooley Quicksilver, hadn't had a run since early last year, and Cooley Nutcracker is still a relatively young horse, and it was quite a challenging course this year, more so than some. And it was very much in my mind of try and be quick and be competitive without taking too many risks and without giving them a bad ride. I think it's super important to set them up for success with what else we have coming through this year. So I did look at it a little bit more that way. I came away from that being highly critical of myself. I didn't really feel like I was in my groove yet, if I'm honest. I sort of felt I hadn't ridden as well as I could have. And yeah, Carolina was kind of an important step for me, because I actually came away from that event thinking, now I feel back to where I need to be. I sort of feel back in my own skin again. I know that sounds really silly, but yeah, I sort of feel like I'm back back in my groove, which is good.
It makes sense though, because actually, everybody I think comes out at the start of a new season and you've made tweaks in the off season and you want to kind of see how they play out. The horses are always that little bit more fresh, and the showcase is a little bit different to your standard event as well. So there's all these sorts of different moving pieces of the puzzle. Let's talk about Carolina. Mixed Master C, first of all. He was second last year. He took the win this year, one of only a couple of horses to finish on his dressage score, but he was a very, very convincing winner. It goes into one of the top 3 finishing scores that we've seen at Carolina. I think he holds 2 of the 3. He looked, you couldn't fault him in any of the 3 phases.
No, he was just amazing. I was absolutely thrilled with him, and just sort of some of the changes we've made and things I've been working on. I'm still trying to tweak things with him, but I was really, really pleased with just how focused and thoughtful he was throughout the entire weekend. He is a strong horse. He's a very powerful horse. So it was important to me to, sort of prove to the selectors that I could make the time without looking reckless or hurried. And I feel that we did that. That was sort of my goal, was going there and producing a top dressage score and finishing on it. And I was just completely thrilled with him. He jumped probably the best show jumping around I think he's ever jumped, and just tried his guts out for me all weekend.
What about Cooley Nutcracker, who finished in eventual 5th? It feels like he is very much kind of, I was going to say knocking on the door. I feel like his door's already open. He won a couple of 4-star longs last year. He's had some great placings coming up the level at the 4-star level. He was top 10 at Kentucky in the 4-star last spring as well. He is only a 10-year-old. He is the highest rated 10-year-old in the world right now.
Oh, wow.
How excited about him for the future are you, and what can you tell us about him? Because I feel like he's the one. I've been banging this drum list. Cooley Nutcracker, of course, we all need to be watching this year.
He is a phenomenal horse. I just love him to pieces. He's very, very sharp and sensitive. A lot of people don't know that. He's incredibly sharp to people, to horses, to everything. I think that's part of what makes him so good. Is he's very smart. He's very alert. I wouldn't say I produced the best dressage test on him at Carolina that we were capable of. I would blame myself for that. Definitely not him. Certainly cross country, he was unbelievable. Again, and in the show jumping, he's a wonderful jumper. But I definitely went into the event thinking I'd like to be fast cross country, but the most important thing is to really place him at the fences correctly so he comes home really confident with his first 4-star of the year, because it is our goal to do the 5-star at Kentucky. So I'm just trying to tick all those boxes and make sure he's in his best place possible, because he is still a younger horse.
And what about Cooley Quicksilver, who Monster, I feel like, has been at the top level for such a long time. He is such a legend, and we missed him last season because he only actually we saw him at the start of the year, and then he had some time off. But he looks like he is back to his brilliant self. What are the plans with him?
Yeah, it's great to have Monster back. We've been together for 8 years now, and he's still as weird and wonderful as he was as a 5-year-old. But yeah, he feels really professional this year. He's in a good place. I thought he jumped really well. It's just an unfortunate rail down. But the plan with him is that he will go to Stableview, and then he'll do the 4-star at Kentucky, and he will do the long 4-star at Tryon in May. And I think that will be a good selection trial for him.
Okay, exciting. And what about Cooley Moonshine? Because, you held 4 of the top 5 places after dressage. And then I'm sure there were people crying into their cornflakes all over the world when Cooley Moonshine, who was sitting second, withdrew because their eventing manager team blew apart in front of their eyes. What's the plan with him? Because, again, has had a bit of time off back end of last year.
Yeah, he's, again, a horse I've had from a 5-year-old. He's just the most incredible horse, and he just has had a good few setbacks in his career, which is a real shame. But if we can keep everything going the right way, there's a very big win in him, I believe. He comes out every season more professional. It was always my plan to withdraw before cross country. He quite honestly wasn't quite ready there yet, but I wanted to go and just get him in the ring and jumping again. And he did a beautiful test first to go. Again, he's just such a professional now in those phases, and it was a great experience for him to be there. And the plan is for him to do the 3-star at Stableview, and then he'll do, hopefully, if we can run a few extra horses at Kentucky, he'll get to do the 4-star there, or otherwise he'll do the advanced at Fair Hill the week before. And then he will do the 4-star long at Tryon as well.
Okay, cool. So he's got another long on the horizon. What is the plan? You've kind of touched upon a few of those over the coming weeks. Obviously, Kentucky being a big focus, Tryon being a big focus, there being the 2 selection trials left. You're going to have a number of horses qualified for contention for the Olympics. Mixed Master C, we'll start with him. Am I right in saying that actually the plan is the 4-star?
Yes, that is the plan for him. I think he did a lot of brilliant things last year. I actually believe for him, it's nearly more a challenge to run around a twisty or 4-star short quickly than it is for a 5-star. I mean, he is a relentless galloper. And I think he proved himself very well at 5-star last year. So with the games only being 9 weeks out from Kentucky, I think it's actually the best thing for him to do with that in mind.
Oh my God, the game's only being 9 weeks out from Kentucky.
Yeah,
it's a terrifying statement.
I know.
Oh God, I just had a shiver down my spine. Can I ask you, because obviously the US team has kind of been building and building over the last couple of years, and that team silver at the World Championships in Protoni, there feels like some real strength and depth. There feels like a real buzz about the US team. Obviously, that means, place is very competitive, which every top level event rider thrives, I think, under that kind of environment. But just how exciting is it to be part of the US team this year, knowing the strength and depth and knowing actually what could be possible this summer?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the riders and horses have just upped their game. Even since the last Olympics, everything's just gone up another notch in this country. The courses are better, people are riding better, the horses are better. It's been a really fast rise, actually, if you think about it, sort of the strength in the American team. And I think we showed that with the World Championship results and also what we did at Ocala in a very, very competitive year last year. We were very close to winning team gold there with 3 riders in the top 6 individually. So, yeah, this is a big year. I think we're all just trying to put our heads down and focus on our job and do well. I'm just trying to take one step at a time and do the best job that I can. Obviously, my goal is to go to Paris 100%. But we have a lot of good riders and a lot of good horses now. So it's an important few weeks ahead.
It is going to be a very exciting few weeks, a very exciting few months as well. Liz, thank you so much for your time. We're going to let you go and carry on buying your next superstars, because I'm presuming that's what the trip to Ireland is about, finding the next generation. But thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, and fingers crossed for the next couple of weeks, but actually a couple of months.
Yeah.
It's not going to be long. It's not going to be long. Countdown is on.
Indeed. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Listeners, I hope you enjoyed that little insight as much as I did. We will be back very soon with more, but Liz, all the best for the next couple of months. And listeners, thank you for tuning in.
Equirating horse sales, a relatively new direction for the company. It's been going on in the background for a little while now, but time to tell you a little bit more about it. First of all, Sam, how does this work?
We cast the net over everything. And firstly, it's not just what have we got, it's like what are we even looking for? Like, what attributes do we need? So that's the first part of the process, being like, what should we be looking for?
Nicole, you ring us there, right? Like, let's go to alphabeti days. Remember those days?
All right, Sam.
Yeah.
I am looking for a horse. It is for a young rider who is very decent jockey.
Cool.
And well produced their own young horses, but actually they've got 1 year left in young riders. It's their last chance to go and win a gold medal. And so we want something that has the potential to be on the individual podium and hopefully part of the team at the Young Rider European Championships.
Okay, so the things I'm picking up on. First, we got immediate goal for the Young Rider European Championships, and again for the primary part of that goal to be successful, to be on the podium. We can then look back again through those 15 championships and see what does it take to win. Where do those horses and where do the majority of those horses, where are they at 9 months out from at the end of the year before their championship year? What does it take to win? What does it look like in terms of scores and targets and things like that? And then where should they be at? That's the first thing. What is achieving that goal actually look like, and where should the horse be at now, and on what metrics? So we'll look at phase influence, because you've said to me young rider, so they're still going to be at that 3-star long level. There's still a big emphasis on dressage. It is the most influential phase. and then it's show jumping, and then it's cross country. You don't need to buy a speed machine. We know what we need and what attributes we need. We're going to now whittle over 7,500 horses down to a draft. You're going to have your draft of the top 1% of horses in the world that are most suitable for your goal. But we're going to bring in other factors. Like, you're in England. You might not want to go to Australia or America to try a horse. But what you said as well about being a good rider, you might just, out of a preference thing, be like, look, talk to my trainer, and okay, maybe we want them in the draft, but we're going to definitely place emphasis on horses that maybe aren't ridden by, you know, a 6-foot man because who's won loads of championships because my daughter, you know. So we've had those requests before. Finding the most suitable horses, and then all our intelligence and the numbers, the metrics that we create, like these ratings like ELO that you hear us talking about all the time, that actually correlate to future performance. That's the key. They actually matter. We're using all those in the beginning. Now we've got what's optimal for you and some of your preferences that suit you. And then our team go in and they'll contact everyone about these horses. We're getting videos from riders, getting as much information. This is all about, the key here, folks, is you can make an informed decision.